Undercurrent, sponsored by John Hughes in Victoria Park. Choose your station before you choose your program. Absolutely.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Undercurrent, which this week's find me down at the Barrack Street Jetty and behind me the gorgeous bell tower. More about that later. Well, this week the Australian Maritime Union fronted up to Chevron, asking them to consider employing Australians first on their resources projects. Luke Schubert has the story.
Big businesses can't just think about themselves.
Businesses can only succeed if their communities do too.
They need to think about us. We want opportunity.
At Chevron, we invest in the community to improve education, people's health.
We want a future.
Create jobs and raise the standard of living. After all,
this is our community.
It's my community too.
This week saw the start of a programme of action by the Maritime Union of Australia against Chevron and its subcontractors. The MUA is accusing Chevron of abusing the visa system and failing to train a new generation of workers. We talked to the MUA to find out what they would like to see happen.
Look, we've recently started a campaign against Chevron and its contractors, specifically in relation to the amount of work that will be generated from probably the world's biggest construction job that we've got at the current time. The Gorgon project is the world's largest construction job of any type, and unfortunately we don't believe we're seeing the benefits flowing through to both the community and the people that live here in Western Australia from that. There's been an inability for Chevron to provide the sort of local content it should. So whether it's manufacturing jobs in terms of the steel and the fabrication work that will go into a project like this, but principally from our perspective it's the amount of local jobs that should be on this project and the amount of training that should be going into our youth.
It's never been harder to get an apprenticeship in this state. In engineering and construction trades, there's been a decreasing number of apprentices since 2008.
We've got half the fabrication shops in Kwinana are empty, and there's a lot of steel that should be going to this job that just isn't. We've got a lack of training of young people in the community. We've got a youth unemployment rate in Kwinana currently of about 25%. Yet we've got the world's biggest construction job in our backyard, and our view is we've seen, at least in our components on this project, young people not being trained.
Big businesses can't just think about themselves.
Businesses can only succeed if their communities do too.
They need to think about us. We want opportunity.
At Chevron, we invest in the community to improve education, people's health.
We want a future.
Create jobs and raise the standard of living. After all,
this is our community.
It's my community too.
But look, we've got some real concerns with the misleading nature of the ads that Chevron's put out in respect of investment in local training and local jobs. What we've seen, and I can only speak from the experience of my union, the Maritime Union, what we've seen in our areas is when we've made attempts to try and get jobs on these projects, so apprenticeship jobs, we tried to get 2 chef apprenticeships from an 18-month contract on that job, and there was not enough money in the contract to put 2 young people through apprentices, even though we'd been through and interviewed people.
Imagine if they spent just half of their advertising budget on traineeships and apprenticeships. Imagine the kids that are currently unemployed who will get opportunities out of that advertising budget. Forget the spin, Chevron, deliver on the jobs that you say you will.
The rally on Tuesday was well attended. Somewhere in the vicinity of 4,000 to 5,000 people attended that rally. Clearly that was the beginning of the campaign against Chevron to hold them accountable to the community of Western Australia in relation to the opportunities that should be provided from this job. As we speak now, between midday and 2 o'clock every Friday, for as long as it takes, and we'll be out there one more day than Chevron is, but for as long as it takes, we'll be putting pickets out the front of Chevron's offices to expose what's happening on the world's largest construction job. You know, they have this glossy ad campaign about the benefits they provide in relation to the training of locals and local jobs, yet their largest contractor is trying to exploit loopholes in the system to keep Australians off that project. We want to see investment for opportunities for Western Australians, and we want to see traineeships and apprenticeships for our young people.
We're down here at Forest Chase for the opening ceremony of the World Sailing Championships, which will kick off from the 3rd of December in Fremantle. So how much of an honour is it to have the World Championships here in Perth?
Oh, look, it's a tremendous honour. I mean, as you can see, with over 80 nations competing and close to 1,200 competitors here, it really puts Perth and the city of Perth in particular on the map at a global level. So it is a really exciting time for this city.
It's 79 nations, and it's the biggest event Western Australia has ever had on that measure. You know, it's more than the Empire Games here in 1962, more than Choggum that we had a month ago here, where we had 54, I think. There's never been an event that's had this number of countries represented.
So how much of an honour is it to be in the World Championships?
It's a real honour. It's pretty cool to be here with the whole US sailing team and down under once again.
It's such a privilege to be here. Plenty of people start out hoping to come here, and then we've actually made it, so yeah, it's great, it's fantastic.
It's just a great honour to be selected, because it's so hard to get selected in the first place. It's a whole way across the world for us, so it's just an amazing experience to be here.
Yeah, for us it's a really good experience, stay here in Australia. For most of the people it's the first time in Australia in a World Championship, so it's nice, it's good weather.
I'm not actually here to compete. I'm an ambassador for the regatta, which is not as exciting as sailing, but it is actually really exciting to be part of. To be honest, these guys here would run laps around me. I'm an offshore sailor, so quite a different kind of sailing, but I'm just excited to be here and be part of it.
What went into organising the event?
Well, the event was actually organised at a state level and federal level, but we as a city were very proud to host what you just saw today, which was the opening ceremony. So there's always a lot to do when you're sort of planning events of this magnitude, but we've got a really good team at the City of Perth, so I think it all went really well.
This is an incredibly complicated event to run and needs huge buy-in from the sailing community and from the local community in Fremantle, and indeed from government, commerce and so forth. This has been about a $21 million exercise, which sounds a hell of a lot of money, and it is a hell of a lot of money, but I can tell you we have to spread it very, very thin to actually be able to organise an event of this size.
How much have you been training lately?
Training's every day, like with the exception of a few days off, but normally 5 or 6 days a week, and yeah, pretty intense and very specific, trying to get used to the conditions that we're going to receive here in Perth.
And who do you think is your biggest opponent at the World Championships?
I sail the laser class, so in my fleet it's I think 160 boats, so it's going to be very tough.
There's an Australian called Tom Slingsby, who is pretty much romping every event at the moment, so I'm sure you guys will be pleased to see him out there.
Biggest opponent? Oh, that's tough. Everybody's an opponent out there, but obviously the Aussies are very strong in the 49er, so they're going to be good.
The Australians are going to be the biggest one because they know the place, they are really good sailors in big breeze, and we are waiting for the doctor this day, so we'll see what happens. We are going to try to do our best to beat the local guys.
You've got to remember this is a second-tier sport, let's be honest about this, you know, and therefore to be able to get the level of media attention and the level, and to get that message out to the general public that this is going to be a fun thing for them to do is a tough gig at times. And there's a whole 250, 300 free things to do down in Freo. And I think whether they're sailors or no, they will be down in Fremantle and enjoying the vibe and the fun that we're about to put on over the next 16 days.
The race will be going until the 18th of December. Do check out the highlights on WTV, but in the meantime, feel free to go down to Fremantle and check it out anytime. For more information, please see the website. I'm Sarah Miller, reporting for Undercurrent.
Well, here at the Barrack Street Jetty, you can hop on a boat for a leisurely cruise down to Fremantle into the beautiful Swan Valley, or if you like, in a little more adventure, hop on a boat to Rottnest. Well, this week, Morgan Peterson took to the streets to find out if you think immigrants should be allowed to hold our office of Prime Minister.
Countries in the world, only citizens born in that country are allowed to become leader. Yet in Australia, this is not the case, with our current Prime Minister and federal opposition leader both being born outside of Australia. We took to the streets of Perth to see if you agreed whether or not foreign-born citizens should be allowed to become Prime Minister. Do you think foreign-born citizens should be allowed to become Prime Minister?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I reckon. Do you?
No. No, I don't.
No.
I personally don't, unless they have been here for a long time and they know the culture and everything well.
Yes. Yeah.
Why do you think so?
Because if they've sat the citizen test, whatever test they do, then they're technically part of our country anyway. And I think that, yeah, we're a very multicultural nation, so why not?
Absolutely.
Why do you think that?
Because sometimes people come here when they're maybe 2 or 3 or, this is all they know, this is their country. I really think it depends how long they've been here and how well they've assimilated into the country and how well they've taken on Australian values and what Australians expect, basically. Was Julia Gillard, was she born here or was she born in Wales?
She was born in Wales.
Yeah, there you go.
She's doing nothing for our country. She's getting all the immigrants jobs, and people like me who have just lost their job are struggling to find work.
So you think it's not in Australia's interest to allow people who weren't born here to become our leader?
No, I don't think it's in their best interest at all. Well, we're a multicultural society. I think it's part of our culture, so I don't think it's a problem.
Just like US, didn't they do that?
So you don't think we should change our laws to mirror the United States, where unless you're born in the country, you can't become leader?
No, I think it should be done on merit, to be quite honest. Absolutely not. No, because, we're a country that encourages migrants to come, and as I say, they come as babies, and this is like my 2 children, this is the only country they've ever known. This is their country, although they weren't born here.
Well, we asked the people of Perth, and the results seem to be divided, with half the number of people believing that foreign-born citizens should be able to become leader, as long as they've lived here for a substantial number of years, while other people believe that it's only in Australia's best interest to have natural-born citizens becoming leader and Prime Minister of our country. I'm Morgan Peterson, reporting for Undercurrent.
As always, the people of Perth are never stuck for a word on those controversial issues. And if you would like to have your say, you can join us every Tuesday in the city around lunchtime. Well, more Undercurrent after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Undercurrent, sponsored by John Hughes in Victoria Park. Choose your station before you choose your program. Absolutely. Undercurrent, sponsored by John Hughes in Victoria Park. Choose your station before you choose your program. Absolutely.
Hello and welcome back to Undercurrent, which this week finds me down here at the Barrack Street Jetty. Well, Jasmine Stewart spoke to John Button about a brand new project called the Innocence Project, which aims to release 100 prisoners from incarceration early each year.
Can society handle the truth that they've been responsible for putting so many innocent people away in prison? Angry, frustrated, and eager and passionate to change it. for the pure reason that to make any, how do I say, to make my life meaningful, I've got to do something with what's happened to me to help others, or else my whole life has been a waste. A 38-year sentence, not a 5-year prison sentence, but 38 years, and it has totally destroyed my life, as it destroys everybody's life who is wrongfully convicted.
The Innocence Project is a post-appeal review service offered to people who have actually been found guilty of certain crimes but claim to be factually innocent.
Initially, in the short term, really, it's to get innocent people out of prison. We can't just leave them sitting there while we work on the principles. We have to get them out as soon as we possibly can. And the second arm to that is that we have to make the public aware that it happens and try and get public pressure and media pressure to bear upon the government to change the system and to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Recent Australian cases such as Andrew Mallard and also John Button show that Australia isn't immune to wrongful conviction. There's definite need for this project. We've only been operating for a few years and we still have had over 100 applicants.
50, 60 innocent people in prison, even one. It's wrong. Why can't we do something? Why don't we want to do anything about it?
The selection process is essentially an applicant will apply to the project and make a claim of factual innocence. If that claim is one of factual innocence, then we will look at it. If it's not, for example, if it's a legal technicality, then we don't look at those cases.
If the evidence isn't there to show that they're innocent, it goes nowhere, they stay in prison. And we're not about just getting anyone out of prison. We only want the innocent ones out, not the guilty ones.
Students aren't actually trying to determine innocence. They approach the task from a very neutral perspective. So what they're looking for is new or fresh evidence. So if there is something that would suggest that the conviction was unsafe. They also learn the knowledge and the skills they need to make sure that when they're in professional practice, they don't perpetuate the errors that have occurred in the system.
What it does is we're going to have a different calibre of lawyer and judge and politicians in the future because of this.
We need to move to a model maybe similar to the UK, where they have a criminal cases review commission and cases there are reviewed post-appeal in order to determine the safeness of the conviction.
Well, more could always be done. It's the first step, a massive important step. I'm extremely proud of the University, of ECU, extremely proud of the young student lawyers that are working on it. I think in the very near future, all the universities here with a law faculty will have an innocent project attached to it, as they have up at Edith Cowan. I'm having discussions with other universities at the moment. We want all students, all law students, to work through what the consequences are when they get it wrong, as lawyers, as prosecutors, as judges. And if they realise what the consequences are, that's where we have a different calibre of lawyer. We might even get a lawyer with a heart.
Well, it may sound too far-fetched to be true, but this week Sarah Miller investigates how some workers are using synthetic urine to pass those all-important health and safety medical tests.
The use of synthetic urine has become a common way for WA workers, particularly in the mining and construction industries, to pass drug tests. The synthetic substance, including brands such as Quick Fix and Ultra Clean, is able to pass most drug screenings because it contains a byproduct of muscle breakdown found in real urine. We spoke to the Chem Centre who have been researching these products.
Synthetic urine is exactly what the name says. It's a liquid, generally yellow in colour, and it is made or composed of chemicals which mimic those found in natural urine. Well, there's a whole range of testing that can be done. Simple testing like pH or the acidity of the urine can be done. If that's out of whack, well, that's probably the end of the story, but the products are far more sophisticated than that now.
Generally the process involves urine sampling, so either by instant test cups or by providing a sample to the laboratory. Quite commonly the process is done as part of the pre-employment medical, but very often also we're asked to go out and do random screens on the employees, blanket screens of the whole workforce, or even call kinetic screeners out to in response to an incident. Because the tests are supervised within the clinics and on site, it's quite difficult for them to get away with it. There's also a test for temperature as well as one of our adulteration tests.
Well, the synthetic urine obviously will beat the test, so the person who, upon being notified to have the test, if they've got sufficient time, they can get the product, use the product, and if not supervised properly, thereby beating the test and continuing to abuse drugs in the workplace. Fake urine is cold, if you like, it's at room temperature. One of the parameters of urine that they monitor is the temperature of the urine, which should be at body temperature. So when they go into the cubicle to have their test, what they do is they take their fake urine and they put it in their pocket, and lo and behold they have a heat pack which they open and also put in their pocket, and at the appropriate juncture they take out the sample and check that the temperature is correct, and therefore then tip it into the receptacle and hand it to the supervisor.
Unless there's suspicion that something's awry with the test, and we then do further testing within the laboratory to see whether it is human and whether it is the right temperature, it is possible for it not to be detected.
A spokesperson from Rio Tinto refused to share information about the mining company's drug testing methods, but reassured that their testing practices were consistent with Australian standards.
Of course, the more tests you do to prove it's fake, the greater the expense. So employers are a little bit reluctant to do it on a large scale because of the expense.
You can't just rely on drug testing alone. Drug testing has to be part of a broader program. What you actually want to do is create a culture where people actually don't take risks in relation to drug use in the workplace, that they don't see it as an invasion of personal privacy, they actually see it as a safety issue, and that then urine testing becomes a small part of an overall strategy of education, prevention, workforce programs that create safety in the workplace that the workforce own. If you don't do that, you're always going to have a system that some people try and get around.
Aussie Detox in South Australia is one of the many companies that sell the synthetic urine online. Manager Joe Jones told Undercurrent that the product is sold for party pranks, and he does not believe that it could successfully pass a drug test. I'm Sarah Miller, reporting for Undercurrent.
This week, John Hammond sat down at the Court Wine Bar with Steve Zelensky to talk about his often colourful career.
Steve Zelensky, you're someone that has a very colourful history. Everybody knows you in Perth. In terms of what you do, your business, raunchy promotions, do you get much criticism from people about running an organisation which hires girls out to perform in hotels?
Yes, we get a lot of pro and negative criticism, but a lot of people don't understand the industry, and they say things to me that aren't true. They should really research it and have a look on our website, and then they'll find out more about the company. The girls are wearing basically more than what they were down the beach or Cottesloe Beach. You see more down Cottesloe Beach than you would behind a hotel in Western Australia.
And that was something I was going to ask you about. Do you find it a little bit hypocritical that police would charge the girls for obscene behaviour when you have shows like puppetry of the penis at the Regal Theatre?
Well, that's true, John, because this state is the only state that we have these, a section of the Liquor Act has been imposed by the former Labor government in 1988 it was, and Pam Beggs put it on there, and it hasn't been removed by either government. And it's a waste of police time because there's so much happening out there that should be policed, and they're worrying about things like G-strings behind bars.
Steve, over the years you've been a pretty passionate fighter for things that you believe in. What are some of the things that really annoy you about our legal system and our judicial system?
Well, what frustrates not only me but a lot of the public out there is the fact that you can be victimised by a police officer or charged by bureaucrats and you defend your innocence. You go to court and you spend tens of thousands of dollars and then just before your court case the police just drop it. For no reason at all. Oh, we haven't got enough evidence, but it's cost you $45,000 to $50,000 defending your innocence until that time, and you don't get 1 cent back from the Crown.
And that actually happened to you, didn't it, on an insider trading charge where the case was dropped and you were unable to recoup 1 cent of your legal fees?
Correct, and that's not justice as far as I'm concerned. That's a very, very sad act of our legal system, because you get people out there that have mortgages that can't defend themselves and they just plead guilty, and that's why you get a lot of people pleading guilty to the point where they're not guilty and they just wear it.
And Steve, I mean, you're in the business of hiring out young beautiful women to hotels for events. Do you have a young beautiful woman on your side at the moment?
No, I don't, John, but I at this present time I'm having a few problems in that department, but we won't go there. But as far as, we hire out not only young, beautiful women, some of the girls there are quite educated, and we have different clientele out there that would hire them simply for communication. It's not just about looking good, it's about looking good, being able to handle yourself in a conversation and also talking to different aspects of society.
And Steve, what do you do outside of your work in Raunchy Promotions? What other things do you do to keep occupied?
Oh, I do property development and also share trading, and involved in a new company called Biosis, which is we've just experimenting with a German product which is a green factor. In other words, it turns stale water into fresh water.
Well, that'll be pretty popular in Western Australia right now.
Already trying it in Port Hedland and a few other places, so it's looking pretty good.
And pretty much over the last few years, Steve, you've been based in the city of Perth. Is Perth your true love, your true home?
Western Australia's got many beautiful places. I'm in Perth at the moment because of business commitments and things like that. But yeah, it's great. Perth is a great city, and I think we're very lucky to be here. When you travel around other parts of the world, especially even the eastern states, you look at Perth and you think, what a beautiful city we're living in.
And Steve, I'm not expecting an answer to this question, but you're a man that doesn't like to reveal your age, aren't you?
Well, I don't think, over 45, I don't think a man should reveal his age.
So we know you're at least over 45.
That's correct, yes. We'll leave it at that, will we?
Well, that brings to a conclusion another episode of Undercurrent. This evening from here at the Barrack Street Jetty, why don't you come down and take a look sometime, pay a visit to the Bell Tower, or even catch a ferry across to South Perth. As always, we would love to hear your suggestions and any comments you may have. You can find us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, or visit our website wtvperth.com.au. I'm Christy Mulliker and look forward to seeing you next time, same place on Undercurrent.
Undercurrent, sponsored by John Hughes in Victoria Park. Choose your station before you choose your program. Absolutely.